Hi and welcome. My name is Larissa Holderide and I am the president of the Junior League of the Oranges and Short Hills. We call ourselves JLOSH for short. And JLOSH this month is celebrating Women's History Month. We are celebrating the month by having a series of conversations with our members and female leaders from our community. We are talking about our personal journeys, leadership, finding purpose and meaning, and how our personal passions give us persistence and perseverance, allowing us to find the courage to recognize inflection points and moments of challenge as catalysts for change. Today, I am talking with one of JLOSH's sustainers, Gloria Garafulich-Grabois. Gloria, thank you so much for talking to me this evening. I am thrilled to have this opportunity and happy International Women's Day to you.
Thank you very much, Larissa. It's really a pleasure for me to be able to meet you, although it's virtually, hoping that one day very soon we can meet in person. I would like to really thank you and the League for your interest and for the opportunity of having this conversation.
Thank you. Well,
Uh,
we're really delighted. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, go ahead. No.
I was just going to say, this is, we're living in such a crazy time and we are all missing those in-person opportunities to connect. And I'm hopeful, if anything, what comes out of these series of conversations is a better understanding of who we are and what we're contributing. And when we all come back to in-person gatherings, we get to know each other a little bit better. So
I
that's
agree. I agree. And I think this is a way of building a different type of community. We have been accustomed for all our lives to have communities that meet, and we have the person to person and the freedom to see anybody anytime. But now I think that we have found a way, by reason or by force, which have been forced to do this, but to build this community too. And also, if we look at it in the more positive way, we can reach more people. Because sometimes when you have a meeting, only 20 people can come. When you have something virtually, you record it and then many people can watch it or be able to be a part of it, although from afar. But I think it's a different way of building this community, which again, we'll hope that we will be able to go back to the in-person community at some point.
I hope so.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, I hope that you and your family have been faring okay in the pandemic. How have you been holding up?
We have been good. I mean, we have been again reinventing ourselves and not seeing our, members of our family, just our son. But we have been, working from home and, taking all the measures and hopefully waiting for a time for a vaccine at some point. So we're holding up good. And there's a lot of people who have had very difficult situations. So having to stay home and, and everything that entails is not really a sacrifice. We should really, in a way, it's a privilege that we have not had to contend with any of the other issues. So
Oh, I know. We're
yeah,
certainly
so
seeing it
yes,
in the service area and the catchment area that we, provide services.
yeah.
Um, well, I'm excited to have this conversation with you. Maybe just a very simple question to start off. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. I was born in Chile. Uh, I was born to a family that was Croatian. My father's was completely, I'm like first generation, and my mother's family hail also from Europe. I grew up in a home immersed in Croatian culture, as opposed to Chile. We were the foreigners in a way there, and it was wonderful in a way that I was exposed to the Croatian culture, the Spanish culture, a little bit of French, and living in Chile. That was, in South America, speaking Spanish, English in school, a little bit of other, so it was very varied type of upbringing. So I lived there, and then I started coming to the United States when I was very young. I was in junior high school.
Mm.
Um, to Grey Neck actually,
Oh, Long
in
Island.
Long Island. Yeah, I
Yeah.
went there, and I also went in Florida. And my family very much believed in being exposed to all kinds of cultures. So I was coming as a very young person every year, 2 or 3 times, and it was very clear to me at a very young age that this is where I wanted to live, my adult life. So as soon as it was a proper time and I was ready, and more importantly, my parents were ready, I moved to New York. And I moved to New York, and I lived in New York for a number of years. And I went to I again went to school there, but I also came here to a university, and I worked for actually a Chilean company for a number of years, and then I worked for Wall Street for another whole bunch of years. In the meantime, then I got married, and we had a son, and a number of years later, we moved to New Jersey. We moved to Summit.
Okay.
So, and that is when I joined the league. So the US is really, I always say, I have three citizenships. I'm a citizen of Chile because I was born there. I'm a citizen of the United States because it's my home where I have lived probably 80% of my life. But I'm also a citizen of Croatia, where I am very close to, because it's family tradition and culture and all of that. So this is my adopted country, my birth country, and my country of the heart. So it's a little bit of everything. So then that's when
Are you still living? You're in South Orange though now, right?
I live in South Orange now, but we also spend a lot of time in the city. So here is mostly a lot of time during the week, and so yeah, but we have that here. But we lived in Summit for I don't know, about a decade or something,
Oh,
and
wow.
then a little over a decade ago we moved to South Orange. And we have been here since. So it's very nice. So then I joined in my provisional year was in Junior League of Summit. And then afterwards I came here as an active.
Okay.
Yeah, so our records show, and it must have been a transfer, that you joined the league in 1995. So you must have joined Summit in 1995.
Exactly.
And then transferred into JLOSH.
I think I transferred here, I think it was maybe 2005 or 6. Something like that. I'm not remember exact, somewhere like that. Yeah, but I have never not been a member. So it's like, even if you're of course, as you know, there are years that you're more active than others, and then you become a sustainer, and then life kind of happens, and then sometimes you have to travel a lot, and then it's hard to attend. But whenever I can, I mean, when the meetings used to be many times at the Hilton, I used to try to go because there were always a lot of very good speakers, and so it was great.
That's good.
It was great.
Tell me, 26 years ago in 1995, why did you join Junior League, and what were you hoping to get out of it, and how did you even hear about it?
Well, when I was living in New York, I knew of the league. I mean, I knew people that they were members, or they were going to be members, or they had been members. So there was always, New York is not as active, maybe visibly active as it is in the suburbs, but certainly exists. There is. So I was familiar with the league that existed, but I really did not have the opportunity to join. I mean, my work had me traveling all the time. Then I had a small child. It was not really the time in my life. And then after I moved to Summit, I became friendly with a couple of women who were very active in the league. They were like they were like really very bright, outstanding women, very encouraging, and I think it's their enthusiasm, as well as they are making an effort of making me become familiar with the projects that we're working on. I think that those things were key for me to say, okay, fine, I'm going to make the commitment, and I'm going to leave this time because I need to be a provisional. I need to go to my meetings. I need to be able to accomplish all of that. So I kind of like needed to plan it so that it would be, fall into my schedule with a young son and all of that. So I did. What did I expect? I did all I really knew was a part of I was focusing on the work, the projects that were done, what the impact they had in the community. How they got there, I wasn't really sure how the Junior League worked to get there, in the sense that the provisional year, I didn't really understand that it was going to be like a training. I thought it was like you went in and you kind of like started, was instead of like you really had to kind of like pass, quote unquote, so that
Right.
you these thresholds. So I think that going through the provisional training, the process of learning, and how they train you to be a professional volunteer.
Right.
They teach you to be a professional, not only a professional volunteer, a professional committed volunteer, where you take a project from A to Z and you don't drop it off at G.
Right.
You know, that commitment, that is really a key thing, that not only to be a volunteer, but for anything that you do in life. I mean, that training, it has been wonderful, especially to me that, have gone on to to be involved in maybe way too many organizations, but also allowed me to meet these great women.
Yeah.
Who are very committed to the projects, to the mission of the league, and this commitment from them, it really translated in the quality of the projects, and the giving back, as we were talking before. It's a giving back, the serving. I very much enjoyed the professional experience.
I did too, not to cut you off,
It was
but
great.
we're doing things differently this year, and
Yeah.
we're trying to do things differently. I think I have such fond memories of my provisional year, and I think the women that were in my provisional class have they've become some of my closest friends.
Mhm.
And there was such a community. It just felt like such a community for me. But I also think that the way we have structured provisional years has excluded a lot of women who wanted to join at various points of the year. Because I mean, you probably remember, you
Yes.
came in at a certain time,
Yes.
you did your provisional
September.
year, right? And so we've done away with that this year. We want to meet women where they are, and we figure out ways of bringing those new members and it's incredible, Gloria. We had so many new members come in organically just during
Right.
this pandemic, interested in volunteerism and service and looking for community. And we're just come join, and
Exactly. I think years ago was more structured because also the makeup of the communities were more structured, were different. But I think, as you said, the provisional year is such a key part. Either if you do it year or whenever you come, like have a rolling provisional class, whichever way, it provides the training. And most importantly, I think it reminds us that is much that we can accomplish more and better things when we work together as a group, when we work together as friends with great respect, and kind of like in a relaxed manner. There's no one like it was just very and especially I think as you mentioned, the pandemic, it's people need to belong, as we were saying, it's a sense that you need to be a part of it. There's more time, and you also realize what a great need there is.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And the needs that need to be filled, needs to be,
Oh, I mean, if we had the ability, we could be in community every single weekend, or even at least supporting the community every single weekend. I want to ask you, when you came over to JLOSH, I read that you chaired JLOSH's leadership committee. Now, we technically don't have that committee anymore. I have a feeling it's probably lumped into trainings now. But what was that committee's purpose, and how did it serve the league?
Well, I think that, first of all, it was a great privilege for me to chair the JLOSH Leadership Committee. It was wonderful, and I'm also grateful for the opportunity to having done that. And I'm sorry to learn that it's no longer there as the leadership committee has, but I'm sure that everybody's getting the training in different ways. I think that the training and the work of the leadership committee at the JLOSH or any organization really provides, and in our case, to provisionals and members, because I think provisionals were invited to come and attend, the trainings and whatever. It's to provide information on tools to consider when they're building a team, how to build a team, how to plan, how to implement, execute a project, how to, more importantly, how to identify the strengths of each person. in the team that you're going to be in. As each person, as we're all different, I mean, we may have a lot of things in common, but we all have different strengths. To bring them together, and as I said before, in my provisional years, how to execute this at the end, and in the positive impact that a project that has a good leadership and good members can make, so that you see that it translates into the impact at the end of the project. I also think that, you know, leadership training can certainly be applied to in everyday life, in any circumstances. I think that it is a great offering for members. It's something that I remember we had one big training, and there was a lot of people, and the reviews were really good. We did kind of like a survey at the end.
Oh yeah.
And I probably have the survey somewhere, but the replies were like, the comments were very positive as to, like, sometimes we do these things like automatically, how we go about doing things, but when you see them like as a kind of a structure, this is a, so for leadership, this is what you have to look at. There was also an exercise where you looked at the kind of personalities and things like that, that people found that it was very helpful. So those are the type of things, because sometimes we assume that we all kind of have some sort of a training or know about leadership, but sometimes we just kind of like go with it, and many times we are correct, but some other times we can make a mistake. And just by knowing a little bit of that, and I think it's a combination of leadership training, how to build a team, but it's also emotional intelligence, how to identify the team, how to be able to read that team. Because, you know, if you look at it, leadership training is like you can read a book about it, that's ABC, but also gives you the view of emotional intelligence, how to do that, because it all depends on how you lead the group.
Yeah. You know, actually, that's so interesting that you just said that. We have, you know, everything we're doing this year is virtual, and we've been trying to create member experiences that are both educational and rewarding in that sense, and have a leadership component to it, but also fun. I mean, we've been doing some fun things just because we need levity and community in our lives. But in October, for our October general membership meeting, we had a facilitator come in, and she did a training on social intelligence, which is essentially emotional intelligence. And it was so helpful to talk about that now in this moment of crisis that we're in. And because we just don't know where people are. And it was great to talk. I mean, she led us through this fantastic conversation. We were vulnerable and we were courageous, and we got to see how we were thinking, and we understood each other a little bit better. And it felt like we were coming together for this greater good, which is so important. Yeah.
Yes, because, you know, when you're a volunteer, I mean, it's voluntary. You're doing it because you want to, and you need to do it in an environment where you are listening to one another, but not only listening, you're hearing what someone else is saying. You're building that rapport. This is not a task oriented. Yes, there are tasks that need to be accomplished, but the bigger task, in order for it to be accomplished, is a task of building this community, this team, this where people understand one another, where you and I think I have always maintained that every college student or every high school student should leave their high school or their college for sure ready to go face the world, understanding what emotional intelligence is and leadership is, because, you know, you can teach them how to be an engineer or how to be an administrator, but how do you teach them how to deal with the people in the office? How do you teach them how to deal with, maybe one day they'll have an intern and they'll move up, and some people are really good on the paper and work, but then they cannot manage, they cannot connect. And I think that leadership training it should have those two components,
Yeah.
which is how to lead for the tasks that one needs to do, but to do it with that element of the emotional intelligence to be able to connect with your group, you as a leader, but also the members of the group to connect with each other.
Right. And, that's a great segue. I mean, I think we mostly covered it. I was going to ask you, let's talk about leadership, and what does leadership mean for you, and what does it look like? Our mission is focused on leadership, and our mission as a league is to develop the potential of women as better community and civic leaders. And I love thinking about leadership and what that looks like. And I think, you've mentioned it, but I'd love your perspective.
I don't know what it looks like. It's hard to know. All I know is that what I have always said, like, a manager many times is not a leader. A manager is a task oriented. Someone says, "Yeah, I'm going to manage this project." Well, that means that you're going to tell people what to do. You're not going to, like, are you going to encourage them, to each person in that team, to use their potentials to the highest? Are you going to work with them together, or are you just going to say, you do this A, B, C, D, and then we'll put it together and I finish it up? I think that leadership looks like the opposite of a task managed project.
It's not power over.
It's not power over. I always say, like, you and I repeat myself in the importance of being able to identify the strengths of different people, to encourage them to whatever strength they have. Some people are good for, maybe, I don't know, for phone calls, the other one for design, the other one for anything like that. Just each one, and then bring them together, to engage them and to keep their attention, to keep them interested. Because if everyone participates, everyone will have a voice, and that's a common voice to find the solutions.
It's interesting, and I apologize, I'm cutting you off.
Yeah.
I've been also thinking about it in sort of the context of this month, Women's History Month, and that we're a women-led organization. I also think about leadership, and from, I guess, a woman's perspective, I almost feel like it's our responsibility as leaders to be each other's biggest cheerleader.
Mhm.
That if we are not cheering for each other's successes, we're not moving forward in a meaningful way.
But I think that you can only get to that point if there is that sense of empathy with somebody else, that you're not competing, because there is something that, you either work. Unfortunately, it's a lot of people who, when they cannot get to that point, because everything is a competition. You cannot, if you're competing with each other. Let's say two people, they both, I don't know, they have a company that is similar. They should work in collaboration, not in competition. And when you work in collaboration, you can be someone else's cheerleader.
Yeah.
Your peer.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you will see a rival in everything.
Yeah, no, we have to be standing side by side and moving forward.
I saw today, today's International Women's Day, so I was doing some postings and things like that, and something came to me, actually from Chile. There's a great impetus for women-owned businesses, and actually, it's not a big country by any means, but whereas years ago this almost was non-existent, nowadays 6.2% of the companies that export goods and services are women-owned.
That is great.
And you see this because they have gotten together, they have worked, and I say, this is the result of people, once again, working in collaboration towards something that is the common good, which is really what we as human beings are all about.
Yeah, no, it's so true. And I think I always, well, one of the taglines of the Junior League, Big Junior League, is "We are better together."
Yes.
And I always end my newsletters with "We are better together." And I really do believe that. I
Yeah.
believe that, our growth and our success comes from collective empowerment and a
Yeah, there you
cooperative.
go. But and one has to be conscious that there will always be one person that will be the visible person for the organization or for the team or for
We
the
should be
group.
rooting her on every single step
Exactly.
of the way.
Exactly. So there will always be like the president of something or the project lead or the whatever. But that doesn't mean that everybody else doesn't count. I think that it's important, and that's something that again, by us recognizing that we need to have this empathy recognition and always recognize the work and of each person. I think that you can accomplish that because what happens, a leader will only look good if the group is good and it makes him look good. I don't know if you read ever Machiavelli, but I'm not going to quote it, but it's what I remember. uh, in the book The Prince, it says the prince is as good as his secretaries.
Hmm. Yeah.
That's kind of the idea. I'm paraphrasing, but the project lead is a person, the president of is a person, the chair of a committee is a person. It doesn't mean that the other people have like disappeared into the
Right.
background.
No, right. Well, let me turn your attention a little bit I want to talk about a little bit more about your background. So, Gloria, if I have done my research correctly, you are the director of the G.K. Chesterton Institute of Faith and Culture at Seton Hall University. I think you said you're the managing editor of 2 academic journals. You are also the current president of the Gabriela Mistral Foundation and have been honored with the Order of Merit, Gabriel Mistral, a high distinction awarded by the government of Chile that recognizes significant contributions in education and culture. I know that there is so much else that you do, and I want to hear all about that, but I have to take a moment to, to say that I'm just so floored. This distinction, this Order of Merit, is an incredibly selective distinction from what I understand, and has been given to individuals like Paul McCartney. And you are sharing the same honor as a Beatle, Gloria. So please, I'd love to hear about this, and I'd love to hear about Gabriela Mistral and who is she, and what is her significance to you?
Well, thank you. Yeah, I think that my professional life and also my volunteer life has been varied, and I serve on many things. And you're right, I am the director of the Chesterton Institute for Faith and Culture at Seton Hall University, very local. And I'm the managing editor of the 2 journals of the Center for Catholic Studies, which is the Chesterton Review and also the Lonergan Review. I am also the co-founder of the Mama Yuca Chilean Film Festival for the United States. Chile has a great cinematographic production, and we have had a couple of Oscars, which is a big deal, and there was no way to really showcase the productions in the United States. So with a friend of mine, we said, well, we both had served in the South in the Hamptons Latino Festival for a number of years. So they said, well, let's make our own. So we did. So it's going very well. My Croatian roots continue to be very present. I'm a member of the executive board of the Croatian Academy of America, which is a more philosophical and literature and historic kind of organization. Where we also produce a journal. And yes, I am the president of the Gabriela Mistral Foundation. But before that, I'm the co-founder of no, not the co-founder. I am the founder of this one, of the chapter in Chile of the National Museum of Women in the Arts, which is based in Washington, D.C.
Oh,
The
wow.
National Museum of Women in the Arts is the only museum that exhibits art only done by women, created by women.
Oh my gosh.
And they have a few chapters around the world. And I was asked a few years ago to be the founder of the chapter in Chile, which I have done and it's doing great. It's very, very active. So that was, part of the arts. And I am the president of the Gabriela Mistral Foundation, as you mentioned. And yes, I received that honor. and it was, I mean, I was probably as floored and as shocked as you were when I obviously it's not something that you apply for or or anything. It was a completely unexpected event that the government of Chile bestowed on me. Actually, the day I received the formal letter informing me that I was going to be receiving this award and that an official decree, like a law, had been passed in order to do this. I received a letter and I called the government, the ministry. I said, I think there is a mistake here.
Oh my
I
gosh.
have received this letter, but I don't think it's directed to me. I think there could be somebody else. So I just want to know, do I send it back? And they said, no, absolutely not. This is for you.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, really? I said, yeah. So it was a great surprise. I think I was totally speechless. They talked to me a lot. I would have never imagined or expected. I knew of the award, of course. I knew that the award existed. I knew it was not given out many times. I would have never imagined in a million years that I would have been the one on the receiving end. And then, of course, then after they confirmed all of that, the other part that I had not been told, but it came with it, it was a title of Dame.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, what? Yes, from now on, you're Dame. And I'm like,
So is
you
that
mean?
how we should be addressing it, Gloria?
I said, you mean like Dame, like Dame Judi Dench? I said,
Yes.
yeah, Dame Judi Dench. I said, oh my God, I said, I'll never. But in the sense that from the point of view of the surprise of what it came with it, and certainly was an honor to be in the company of Paul McCartney. I really treasure that moment and I'm forever grateful. I flew down to Chile for the weekend to receive this and it was really wonderful. I mean, it's really, I think the award was given to me and I'm forever grateful. And I always say I'm undeserving, but really the award is a testament to my parents and my family. Because of what they did, how they were, how they lived their lives, and how they taught us what needed to be done. And what we were saying before, in a way, who you are is you're a servant. You have to serve, you have to help. And I think that maybe that personally was it's a great honor and it's wonderful and I treasure it and it was very that was a very special moment because I received a call and then I had just come back and within 2 weeks later, I get a call that the government of Croatia was bestowing a similar award on my aunt.
Oh my gosh.
From the government of Croatia, and she had just passed away.
Wow.
And so I flew out again to receive this award, which is the equivalent award for her. And I received it on behalf of my family. So
special.
That was like really special. Yeah. So that's my award and it's very significant. Now about Gabriela Mistral, it is really, she was someone who was born in 1889 in the hills of Chile, in the middle of nowhere. I wouldn't even call it a village. It was a street with 3 houses.
Oh wow.
In poverty, with an absent father, with no money, position, or means of any kind. This is a woman who, at the age of 3, the father abandons the family. She starts going to school, and then after it being that little school where she was, they sent her to this other town, to another school. And she was very bright. But at the age of 13, they wrongly accused her of having robbed school supplies.
Oh my gosh.
So they accused her of robbing school supplies, and uh, she, she kind of passes out at the end of this place in school, leaves school, and she has to walk through the main square to get to her house. And she was stoned by her classmates. Stoned by the classmates, goes back home. She never went back to school again. That was the last time she was ever, she received formal education. Her half-sister was a teacher, taught her. She was an avid reader. She read everything and anything. She began to write. And at the age of 15, she was hired to be a teacher's aide in the countryside, where she had to teach people ages like from 18 to 60 or whatever, how to read and write. And she became a teacher without having studied, continued to teach from place to place, and she became well known. She began to, at the age of 17, exactly 115 years ago today, she wrote a text called The Instruction of Women, how important it was education for women. She was 17.
Oh
She did not, and her writings became known. She would publish with different names. In any case, to make a long story short, she continued to teach. She wanted to become a teacher, a proper teacher, go to school. She was admitted, but when they read her writings in the local newspapers, they did not allow her to study because they thought that she was a socialist,
Oh my gosh.
because she was
Wow.
advocating for women's education.
Oh.
So in any case, she continues to study. 1922, she becomes well known. 1922, she's invited to Mexico to set up the educational and public library system for Mexico. And then she publishes her first book in New York, and continues to goes on to Europe. It becomes no formal education, but always her focus was on the people in need, because of a very simple reason. No one had to tell her what it was to be poor, or how it was to be poor. No one had to tell her how it was to be a woman in a society when you have no education, family, or connections. So she was an advocate for those in need. Eventually, she serves in what was then the League of Nations and the United Nations, what was a Institute of Intellectual Cooperation, which becomes UNESCO. And in 1945, she became a diplomat. And in 1945, she becomes the first Latin American person, man or woman, to win the Nobel Prize in Literature.
Oh my gosh. So she was a revolutionary.
She was a
such
revolutionary. Yes, she was a pioneer. She was
She
a
should have been a junior
revolutionary.
leaguer.
Totally and absolutely. And the concept that we know of UNICEF is something that was her
Yeah.
idea of UNICEF. So she's a very inspiring person. So our foundation follows or tries to continue her legacy of helping those in need, children and seniors in need. Because if you really look at it, who could have said in 1906, when she was 17, living in literally, you see, I don't know if you see, no, you don't see this picture. In the hills of Chile, in the mountains in the Andes, that this young woman would have become that? Nobody.
Well, I love that story of Gabriella, and everything that this conversation is revealing shows that you are so deserving of this distinction. But what I love about Gabriella's story is perseverance, right? And I think about that a lot, persistence and perseverance, especially as they relate to leadership. And Gabriella's story seems one very much of finding purpose and meaning. And I'm curious, what gives you that sense of purpose and meaning?
Well, I think in my case, it's more a matter of commitment and perseverance, not persistent. Because persistent can be, they can be viewed as being obstinate, being hard-headed. So for me, I think it's more like a matter of commitment. I think that being committed to the work, and I am committed to the work that I really believe that can make a difference in someone's life. Because anytime you make a difference in someone's life, you hope that it has a domino effect, that it
Yeah.
goes on and on and on. So for me, I think it's a commitment for the work that I believe that makes a difference, like the Junior League, like all of the other entities that I work with. And is the perseverance to bring a project to the finish line. And I think you have to do that with patience. Um, and I, for that, I think I need to, where it comes from, I don't know. I think it's my upbringing. I think that from my family, as I mentioned to you, they came from Croatia, not knowing Spanish, not knowing anything. And, they had to make it work.
Yeah.
There were two brothers with a total of 15 children that came to a new country. Like,
Right.
yeah. So you have to persevere. You have to be committed. But, they were not obstinate, So I think that if I were to say, where does it come from? Yes, my family, but also from the desire to help the people in need, to make a contribution of any kind, to make a positive impact in the opportunities of those people who are in need, let it be material, physical, or emotional. And also the desire of always being in touch with one's roots, one's cultures. As I think culture is what defines us. Is after it's all gone, our culture is what remains, is what's going to continue. And we need to learn about our culture and each other's cultures. We need to treasure it. We need to pass it on to our children. We need to promote the richness of our roots and the people who have been, instrumental in our lives. I mean, but I think in the moving factor is certainly to achieve
Yeah.
any goal of a project. I mean, I don't think I ever saw a project I didn't like. That's my problem. And that's why, you are committed to that, because how can you say no when you're trying to help children have, I don't know, shoes to go to school?
Right. Yeah, I
No?
think about this a lot. And I think, that purpose and meaning becomes sort of that fuel that keeps us moving forward.
Right,
And
right.
I think about it a lot because it's so easy to say, no, not today. I'm going to give up. It's not working for me. And I think that for me, it kind of comes down to like a self-love, right? That I recognize that the passion that I have, and I think my passion is service and volunteerism, and I hope that I can empower other women to do the same. But it's recognizing that passion and that belief that we're worthy of putting in the effort and the work. And that's kind of what fuels me.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter. No one has to be, I mean, it's anything that you do. I mean, it doesn't have to be the big things. It can be the small things. It could be, you know, and I will send it to you. Mistral wrote once a poem in prose called "The Pleasure of Serving." It
Oh,
could
I'd
be,
love to read it.
yeah, it could be something very simple that you do, but it can make a difference in someone's life. You don't have to always do like the big project. You don't have to like build a house. Maybe you just need to give someone a book,
Exactly.
or give someone anything like that. But there's always, for I think, for people who are in need, to be treated with dignity is, as we were talking before, it's not a matter of I write a check, I send it, and I feel good about it. That's not. Yes, it helps, but where does that money go?
Right.
I mean, if you really want to help someone, do it, and that's what the league does.
I
You
think
know.
I agree with you. I agree with you. I think our league is smaller and we're doing smaller projects, But when you talk to our community partners and you hear the value of our work, that's what keeps us going. And I'm
Exactly.
hopeful that at some point we will be a bigger league and we can take on bigger projects, because I know we are capable of that. That's our history. We have
Exactly.
created organizations like Isaiah House. We have
Of
built
course.
massive additions to the Cora Hartshorn Arboretum. We have renovated the library in East Orange, the children's section. I mean, we've done big projects. We're totally capable of doing that. I'm hopeful we can get there again, but I do know that what we are able to do and how we are able to shore up families a little bit, it matters.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I
Yeah.
think that the big projects come in time. And I think one needs to wait until the right time comes. I think right now, more than a big project like that, they need the smaller projects where they are
Yeah, and we
looked
need to,
after. You know, it's
it is, and we need to recreate that sense of our, you know, that everyone belongs and we have
Mhm.
purpose, and there is a community within this great community of JLOSH for
right,
everybody.
right.
So Gloria, I did have other questions, but I feel like in the interest of time, can we have a little fun and do some lightning round questions?
Okay.
Okay, most memorable meal.
Dinner where Bill Gates' father was there. And I was able to really gather all this, great to listen to him about talking about the Bill Gates Foundation, his wife, his son, in a very relaxed way, not like with a camera. It was really memorable to me. It was like one of those things once in a lifetime. Uh, Things that I treasure. It was really good.
Where was this?
At the Lotus Club in New York.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Oh, incredible. Wow. That's
Yeah.
great. What is the book you're currently reading, or a book you're currently reading?
Well, I usually read more than one, but I think that I picked up one that is kind of is a gentleman in Moscow,
Hmm.
which is kind of like good for times of pandemic. Pandemic. This is about a gentleman who lives in a hotel, and that's what he cannot. He's like confined to this hotel, like if it was a pandemic, and he needs to build a life by living in this hotel, which he cannot leave
Hmm.
because if he leaves, he will be jailed.
Oh gosh.
So it's how this man who had the world at his feet suddenly finds himself in this hotel, which may be fancy and all, but that's all he has.
Hmm.
He has, in the small room, and he needs to build a life. And I thought, well, in a way, we
Yeah.
are kind of in that hotel where we
Yeah.
need to build this life and reinvent the life. So that's one book I'm reading. It's good.
Great. Good. I'm hoping that we can start a book club with Junior League.
That would be
I think
good.
it'll be a
Yeah.
nice way to create community.
Yeah.
Okay. Female heroine, past or present, real or fiction in your life?
Well, I don't know if I have a fictional hero. I I I do have real ones. One of them, my mother,
Hmm.
my aunt, the one that I mentioned
Hmm.
before. She was really my role model in life. I'm more like her than anybody else. And Mistral,
Of
she
course.
is someone who literally really made a difference. And I think that the combination of these three women who were educators, artists, diplomats. Uh, they all bring that 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 part of who I am. I mean, I'm a little bit of all of them. I'm not a Nobel Prize or anything, but
I
a lot
understand.
of the things that I have gotten from them.
I understand. That's really
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
That's really great. Okay, let's get a little bit more local. What is your favorite restaurant in the South Orange area?
I don't really have a particular one, but I do like St. James. What's it called? Gate. St.
Oh, the
James
pub in
Gate. Yeah, the
Maplewood.
pub. Yes, yeah, yes, yeah, yeah.
Well, I look forward to maybe meeting you there in person at
Yes,
some point when all
absolutely.
of this
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
opens. Most memorable JLOSH experience or moment?
There's many, but I always go back to my provisional year. How these 40 women that we were, that came from different ways, we worked together and we met for the first time. Everybody brand new to the league and to the system of the league, how to do things, and got to know each other, respect each other, work together, and to see our end project come to fruition. That was really, it was great because I really, you know, it was wonderful. Also, I very much enjoyed the human trafficking series that they had. That was very good because it brought something to the attention when maybe a few years ago people were not talking about it very
Yep.
much.
We're still talking about it.
Exactly, but years ago when it first started, there were not so much in general. And also having the opportunity to volunteer alongside many women and meeting new women, new friends, you know, so that has been very good.
That's great.
Yes.
Last question, Gloria. Where would you like to see JLOSH in 10 years?
I'd like it to continue to thrive as it has its 100+ years so far, as a league overall, and for the JLOSH to continue to make a contribution to the community, continue to make great impact in the lives of so many. I think that the community of Short Hills and the Oranges will always need the Junior League. I like them to empower women to make a difference in the world. I also think that we are a symbiotic relationship. The Junior League needs the communities that we serve, and the communities that we serve need the JLOSH. And we can empower one another to become a better communities, either the JLOSH, and to empower the people of the communities to also carry on some of the work.
Agreed. It's a real partnership.
Yeah.
Well, Gloria, I cannot thank you enough
Oh,
for
no,
this
thank
time.
you.
This has been my privilege and honor. I've so enjoyed speaking with you, and I really do hope that we can be meeting in person one of these days soon.
Well, I want to thank you for your time and for your interest. I don't know when this will be shared, but
I'm going to share it on Thursday, actually.
Oh, okay, but today is International Women's Day, and I'd like to, you know, congratulate, recognize, and honor every woman, past, present, and future member of the JLOSH. And I congratulate you and your team for continuing the work in a moment that is not easy, but to continue with commitment and enthusiasm. And that's great. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I will talk to you soon, Gloria. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.